Do you dream of studying abroad, but you're not sure how and where to go? That's why we're here, Dream Studies Abroad, to help you out reaching your goal. So many schools from all around the world are welcoming you with their open doors. Live your dreams and travel the world, a new journey for the brighter future. Let's talk study abroad today. Your dream is not so far away.
Welcome to this webinar on how to recruit students from Scandinavia. Normally I start these webinars by singing myself, but today I'll let you enjoy a more beautiful voice. In this presentation we will start by looking briefly at DreamStudies, who we are and how we can help you to recruit international students. Then I will give you an introduction to the Scandinavian countries and students. We will look at some statistics of where and what Scandinavian students study abroad. And we will get to know the student funding systems that can help students to study at your school. And finally, once we know them better, we will zoom in to the core question of how to recruit Scandinavian students. So, this is me. My name is Johan Asplund and I'm a native Swede based in Stockholm, Sweden. I've studied abroad in 5 different countries and I have 19 years experience of helping Swedish students to study abroad. After having co-founded and managed another Swedish agency for many years, I founded DreamStudies back in 2016 to create a new kind of agency better suited to a new generation of students who want to be more independent. At DreamStudies we give students free information online about how to study abroad, and we help international schools with student recruitment. We get students from all over the world, but the majority of them are from Sweden and Scandinavia, where we do all our offline marketing. So, enough about us. Let's talk about Scandinavia. What is Scandinavia? Locally, the term Scandinavia refers to the 3 kingdoms of Norway, Sweden and Denmark. The Scands are the names of the mountain range that runs through all of Norway and western Sweden. Those 2 countries also make up the Scandinavian peninsula. But somehow Denmark got included, even though their highest mountain is a 150-meter high hill, and they've not been part of the peninsula since the last ice age. But you can kind of see how Denmark fits snugly between Sweden and Norway. In the English-speaking world, Finland is also often included in the term Scandinavia. So I will include them in this presentation as well, but not the other Nordic countries, Iceland and the Faroe Islands, since they have very few international students anyway. Confusing? Well, this is nothing if you compare it to the UK, England, Scotland, Wales, Great Britain, Commonwealth and all that confusion. So let's look at some common denominators between the Scandinavian countries. The languages are mutually comprehensible. Danish and Norwegian people easily understand Swedish, and we can understand them too, even though it's a bit harder for us. These languages are all of Germanic origin, just like English. And Scandinavian people are some of the best non-native English speakers in the world. So most Scandinavian students will pass your English language requirements without the need for a prep course. Finland is a bit of a different story. About 5% of the Finns have Swedish as their native language, and many more have Swedish as a second language. However, the Finnish language is a completely different animal, unrelated to all other languages except Estonian and Hungarian. So English can be a bit more challenging for students from Finland, but most of them still speak pretty good English. Free education is another hallmark of Scandinavia. Literally all education is free here, even at university level. This can be a problem when students want to study abroad, since neither the students nor their parents save money for college. However, luckily we have very generous government funding systems in Scandinavia, where students can get grants and loans from the state for studying abroad. We will have a closer look at this later on in this presentation. All Scandinavian countries are members of Schengen, so student visas are very seldom an issue for students from Scandinavia. Scandinavian students are also independent. They often travel on their own and they don't only want to hang out with people from their own nationalities. And this will, for example, affect the choice of accommodation, which we will also get back to later. So let's have a look at some statistics. But please note that these are approximate data, since I have collected them from many different sources in these 4 different countries, and they measure things a bit differently. Their definitions can be different, or time periods, but I tried to merge it all together for you.
So, now I'll give you a break from looking at me for a while. Instead, let's look at some statistics. Where do Scandinavians study abroad? Great Britain is the most popular country for Scandinavian students, especially for Norwegians and Danish students who bring up the statistics a lot there. But it's quite natural that Britain is popular. They have many great high-ranking universities, they're relatively close to home for Scandinavian students, and costs have been much lower than in the US and Australia, at least before Brexit. Now things are starting to even out a little bit. But number 2 on the list is the US. US has almost always been the most popular country for Swedish students, even though numbers have gone down quite a bit since 2016 for some reason. But I think there's a good chance for a recovery there. So US is always one of the most popular countries, not least for Swedish students. Then we have Australia, again another big English-speaking countries, many good universities, and you have this lovely climate and the sun and the beach that the Scandinavian students love, and of course lots of programs to choose from, so quite natural. And after that you get a bunch of different EU countries. Not so surprising, close to home students can study very cheaply, even for free, in the other Scandinavian countries. That's why you have Denmark and Sweden. Their languages are mutually comprehensible. There are no costs involved. Maybe more surprising, you find Poland so high ranking. And that's because of medical studies. It's very hard to get into medical programs in Sweden and Norway, very competitive. But in Poland it's a bit easier, and they offer medical programs in English at quite reasonable prices. Then of course Germany, Netherlands, Spain, France, popular countries. What might surprise you a bit is that Canada doesn't rank higher on this list. But it's actually not so strange. Canada is just too similar to the Scandinavian countries when it comes to climate and even culture, skiing, ice hockey, all those kind of things. So often when Scandinavian students study abroad, they want to experience something different, something maybe more exotic, or just go for that heat and beach that they don't really get experience so much at home. So looking at the US, the most popular destinations for Swedish students are New York City, California and Florida.
So what do Scandinavian students study abroad? Well, going abroad for a semester or 2 to spice up your CV and experience college life is one of the most popular options. So study abroad semesters. After all, education is free in Scandinavia, so many students don't want to pay for a full degree abroad, but they still want to have the chance to get the experience for a semester or 2. So if you want many Scandinavian students, I really recommend that you offer study abroad semesters. However, degree programs are not unusual either, especially for Norwegian and Danish students who have the best national funding systems. The majority of Scandinavian students are on undergraduate level. And popular subjects to study are social sciences, business, health, sport, humanities and arts. Numbers are lower for subjects such as IT, engineering and education. Of course, we have a lot of students for these subjects, but they are less likely to study abroad. Sweden has the largest population in the Nordic countries and the highest number of international students. However, for higher education, Norway has at least as many students as Sweden, so they have by far the highest percentage of students studying abroad. So why is that? One of the keys to getting students from Scandinavia is to understand the Scandinavian student funding system. I'm an expert on the Swedish CSN system, but I also have a fair knowledge of the systems in the neighboring countries. As I mentioned before, basically all education is free in Scandinavia. But luckily all students are entitled to government grants and loans to cover their living costs, and in many cases even their tuition fees up to a certain limit. However, students are still price sensitive, since no one wants to take loans unnecessarily, and few students have the means to pay for tuition fees that exceed the available loans. Each Scandinavian country has their own student funding system with pros and cons, as we will see on the next slide.
This is a bit complex, but here we're going to look at how much money Scandinavian students can get from the governments when they study abroad. And the money is divided into 4 different sections. You have the grants for living costs, the blue pillar. We have grants for tuition fee, the green pillar. We have loans for living costs, yellow, and we have loans for tuition fee, this kind of orange pillar. And the top graph is maybe where you should put your main focus. This is the total amount of money Scandinavian students can get for studying abroad through their state funding systems. So in this we can see that Norway and Denmark have the highest amounts, but Sweden is not far behind. However, there's a big difference. In Sweden, the student funding system is primarily loan-based. They get a small grant, that blue pillar there, but all the rest is loans. So studying abroad will still be costlier for a Swedish student, making them a little bit more price sensitive. While Danish and Norwegian students have larger grants, even Finnish actually do, which make it easier for them. And Norway by far have the most generous system, because they can get these amounts for up to 8 years. So they can literally go to the US, take a bachelor's degree, take a master's degree, and more or less pay for all of it with their student funding from the government. In Sweden the money lasts for 6 years, but there's also a cap on the tuition loan of about 33,500 euros, which means this loan will run out if they go to a US university, for example. It won't last for all 4 years. Denmark also have a cap which is 2 years. So it's great for like a master or study abroad semesters, but they will also run out of money on longer programs. And their amounts also are estimates. While Norwegians, for example, actually can get even more money if they choose to study at a really high-ranking school like Harvard, Ivy League, something. Then there's an extra grant for selected schools. Finnish are a little bit poorer in this way. They actually get more grants than Swedish students, but they don't offer loans for tuition fees. So of course students can still go to a bank at the regular bank loans, but the total amount they get from the state funding system is smaller than the other Nordic countries, and that can be one explaining factor why also fewer Finnish students study abroad, along with the language differences.
So finally, let's get into the main question of this presentation: how to recruit Scandinavian students. It's actually rather easy. First of all, you have to be visible in Scandinavia so students can find you. And preferably get enough brand awareness so students will actually actively go looking for you. Secondly, you need to be able to convince students to actually choose your school. Depending on where your school is located and what you offer, this can be both hard and easy. On the next slide we will have a closer look at what Scandinavian students are looking for. As I mentioned, Scandinavian students love the sun and beach. Florida and California are easy destinations to sell, at least if you're not far from the beach. Exciting big cities like New York, Chicago, LA, Vancouver or Toronto are also attractive. But don't expect many Scandinavian students to Omaha or Edmonton. Good self-catering accommodation is another important point. As I mentioned, Scandinavian students are independent, so adult students usually don't want to stay in host families. They also want their privacy, so few would accept more than one roommate, if any. In fact, if the students could choose themselves, they would want to have their own studio apartment downtown with great access to the school for a rent of about $100 per week. This is probably not what you want to hear, but most Scandinavians are quite price sensitive and they are looking for schools with low tuition fees and or good scholarships. As I mentioned, all education is free in Sweden and in Scandinavia, so students are reluctant to pay big tuition fees. And if the fees exceeds the available tuition fee loans, few students will even have the money to pay for it. So in Scandinavia it's actually easier to promote a good community college than an unknown university with high fees. If you charge a lot, you better be a well-known and high-ranking university. Offering study abroad programs where students can come for 1 or 2 semesters and take courses of their liking is a great way to improve your nationality mix and attract more international students. The application process is often easier and the cost is much lower than taking a full degree abroad, so this is a very good way to attract more Scandinavian students. You can still attract Scandinavian students even if the list above does not apply to your school. You'll just have to manage your expectations and be prepared to work harder for it. What is your unique selling point? Why should a Scandinavian student study at your school? You will need a very good answer to that question to succeed in your recruitment, and make sure that this message is consistent throughout your website, your brochures and your social media, so you make it very clear to potential students why they should choose your school. And finally, you have to be visible in Scandinavia to reach Scandinavian students. One good way to do this is to attend the big Scandinavian student fairs, Studia in Helsinki, Tautanen in Norway and Saco in Sweden. We attend all those fairs and our partners can co-exhibit with us at very low costs. Another good way is to arrange information evenings in Scandinavia, or nowadays it can be even better to just do a webinar to reach the entire country or the entire region, and it's even more cost effective, as long as you can promote them properly and actually get Scandinavian students to participate. We can help you with this. You need to be visible and attractive online in order to attract these students. Millennials and Generation Z love to search for information, so they will surely visit your website and your social media accounts before applying to a program at your school. So if they find your website boring or if they don't find the information they're looking for, then they're not going to apply with you. So make sure that your website is inspiring and that it's super easy to find application information, prices, start dates, program, everything that a potential student might be looking for. And finally, I would recommend working with a local representative in Scandinavia who can help you. DreamStudies can help you to recruit students on the Scandinavian market. I don't know if there are any other agency that covers all of Scandinavia like we do. We can help you attend fairs and organize information evenings in Scandinavia at discounted prices. And we can promote your webinars and other activities in Scandinavia to help you attract more participants. All our partners get an online presentation on our high-ranking websites in both Swedish and English, where you have 100% control of the content and what is said about you. We are experts on the Swedish CSN system and can help your students to get the grants and loans needed. We can also help you with all questions you might have about CSN or the other funding systems. We have long expertise with marketing schools online, and we can help you with advice on how to improve your website and your school presentation. Does this sound interesting to you? In that case, don't hesitate to contact me at johan@dreamstudies.se. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Do you dream of studying abroad, but you're not sure how and where to go? That's why we're here, Dream Studies Abroad, to help you out reaching your goal. So many schools from all around the world